Thank you very much for being here this evening. It's very comforting to find that people are still interested about gut health and considering the amount of people who are suffering in silence and finding no relief whatsoever, being medicalized without knowing why and what are the consequences of taking those medications, what are the side effects, and what they can do about having a proper life. Because when it comes to IBS, it can impact your life so deeply that it can affect your day-to-day life and what you can do and even your productivity, meaning that many people do call off to not go to work because they are in just so much pain or discomfort, or just because IBS is literally ruining their lives. So I think that's why it was very important for me to write the book, because having living this firsthand for many decades and having find no relief whatsoever with my doctors over the years, which I have changed many times and also moved countries, and it has just gone from worse to worse. So I had to find a solution, and my journey, I think, could be very inspiring for many people who are experiencing so many symptoms and not knowing what to do about it. Because when they take medicine, one day it works, one day it doesn't work. And then what's happened is that they will believe, okay, the medicine has helped me, I should take it. But the problem is they will be on medicine or even antidepressant for decades and having no proper relief and just wondering when the next big flare out will be. So I think for me, that's the very key to really understand what first is IBS, what we can do about it, and how to go about having a proper life with naturopathic medicine and nutrition, and really looking into every aspect of our lives. Because when it comes to naturopathy, we are always looking at every factors. So what are the cause to your symptoms? And the thing is, because it's so individualized, your symptoms might not be the same symptoms as the next person who may also have been diagnosed with IBS or actually think they have IBS, but the doctor never actually diagnosed them. So this is really key, because until now, there is still no golden standard to identify IBS. The way it is done is by your presenting symptoms. The issue here is that there is no test involved and there is no correlation between your lifestyle, your stress level, your sleep, your food intake, your exercise regimen. Nothing is taken into consideration, not even your place in society. For example, do you have any friends that you are close to? Do you feel open to talk about your problem and even your symptoms? Or are you feeling isolated and mainly staying at home because that's the only safe place that you know? And as you will see in the book, there were several case studies where this person at that time in their life would not want to go out because they didn't know where will be the closest toilet where they can run to. And that is very difficult to handle, because if you have especially IBS with diarrhea, predominant diarrhea, and you have that sense of urgency, and if you don't know where the nearest toilet is, the stress generated from that will be astronomical. And what happened with that is whenever you will go out, you will get stressed more and more and more. And then at the end of the day, you will not actually want to go out at all. So I think for me, to go back to basics, we need to understand what is a good gut and what is bad gut health. So in the book, I do actually write it, and the signs of a good gut health are very straightforward, and yet we seems to forget what are the messages that we receive from our gut. What are the signals that we are kind of ignoring, meaning symptoms? What are those little messages that the gut is sending and we're just not taking into consideration? So here is what I write in the book. So, signs of a healthy gut. Through assessing gut health may require testing, sure signs indicate optimum digestive function, and that is regular, predictable, and complete bowel movement. And that is the number one factor. And I think this is one of the most important because when you're not going to the toilets at least every day, and as in my experience, once a week, then you know that it may be your normal, but it's far from normal. But that we will discuss a bit further along. The second is well-formed, easy to pass stool, and those are usually type 4 Bristol chart. And I have created my own Bristol chart, which we discover in a book, so that you can really understand how your stools shape and look is very important in a way to explicitly say how your gut is feeling. The other point that is quite important, and we forget about this, is the absence of persistent abdominal pain or discomfort after eating. How many people experience bloating anytime after eating food? Sometimes straight away, sometimes after 10 minutes, sometimes after an hour, or even an hour. So those things seems to be like normal for us, and we think, oh, okay, it will pass. But maybe it's not that normal. And of course, the number four is minimal excessive gas or bloating. And I'm really not there. Occasional gas is normal. The other one is rare instances of indigestion or heartburn. The thing with indigestion and heartburn is very, very important. And when it comes to IBS, it's extremely key symptoms because it really relates to the upper digestive system. So something is going on right at the beginning of the digestive process. So that is extremely important to assess. The next factor is healthy appetite and stable weight. How many people do realize that, they tend to have some kind of weight fluctuation anytime that they eat some certain food, sometimes even getting one or two sizes of trousers and having to unbutton the trousers because they just don't fit anymore. The other thing is adequate hydration because we know that hydration supports digestion because the body produces liters of digestive juices to allow you to extract the nutrient from the food that you eat. And of course, it's also essential for regularity because if you are dehydrated, then you will be mostly prone to constipation. And in IBS, that is a very key problem because it keeps reiterate that kind of discomfort that can now link to dysbiosis, the way that the gut microbiota is kind of unbalanced. And now they're opening the door to opportunistic and pathogenic bacteria having creating more problem. Then, of course, the next one is tolerance to a wide variety of food without adverse reaction, meaning considering all these food intolerances, hypersensitivity, and usually this is also a sign of chronic low-grade inflammation and kind of predisposition to having more and more as time goes on, and including allergies as well. Sorry, I'm just answering the chat. The next one is clear, radiant skin, free from breakouts or skin issues related to poor digestion or nutrient absorption. We know for a fact that skin health is extremely linked to gut health, liver health, and of course, malnutrition, because we know that the immune system relies on key minerals and, comes magnesium, comes zinc. They're all extremely important, but they're also important for the skin. And we need to remember that the skin is our biggest detoxifying organ. And considering the size of our body and how many cells are doing an extraordinary job to get rid of all the toxins that may not be excreted via the bowels or the kidneys. And now I really want to bring the signs of a healthy gut. I will not get all of them today because otherwise we will be all night. But I think one of the most important is chronic constipation. I've been considering myself as a case study, and many of the case study and people that I've seen in clinic, it appears that many people, mostly maybe 65%, have IBS with predominant constipation type, which means that they can go once a day, once every 3 days, once a week, or even less. So this is really key to really ascertain that something is not quite right with our digestion. Do we eat enough? Do we have any kind of inflammatory processes that is impacting how we are absorbing food, but also how our gut bacteria are dealing with the food that we are consuming? And of course, it also linked to the hydration and the stress, because that we know as practitioners that stress is one of the key routes of digestive disorders, including constipation. Um, Persisting bloating, gas, abdominal pain, and cramping is not normal. And that is really a sign that your gut is struggling and something is not going quite right. And usually that is due to some food creating some kind of issue there. That could be because you're not digesting food properly, you're not breaking down food properly in your stomach, and undigested food is entering the intestinal tract, creating an immune response because when food exits the stomach, it should be in a liquid form, more or less. And the component of the food, which is forming the chyme, which is the name for what is coming out of the stomach, should be really easy to attack by all these enzymes, and digestive enzyme and juices, to really break down these little pieces into even more minute pieces and molecules that we call nutrients. So this is really important because whenever we have that kind of issues that is relating to bloating or indigestion or even reflux, it means that the upper digestive system is under stress and we need to really focus on reestablishing balance right there. And usually that also raises another question. What are the drugs or medicine that you are taking over the counter or prescribed? And that usually are the PPIs or omeprazole or acid lowering drugs. And what those drugs do is that because they lower the secretion of stomach juices, now you cannot digest your food because protein, for example, in certain fats need stomach acid to be broken down. And without that, you cannot also absorb minerals because minerals need to be emulsified and fat as well by the stomach acid. Vitamin B12 as well need the entrancing factor to be chaperoning B12 to the colon. But that cannot happen if you do not have enough stomach acid. But the issue here is that when you do not have enough stomach acid, your stomach do not produce mucus. When it doesn't produce mucus, it cannot be protected from the acid that is normally producing. So now you have a catch-22 problem because you don't have enough stomach acid, so you produce less mucus. Now you have less mucus, and now your lining of the inside of your stomach is not protected, and therefore you have that burning sensation, and therefore you're taking more drugs or more antacids or anything like this to reduce even further the acid in your stomach. And now you have that huge problem where now you have food sitting in your stomach, putrefying when it comes to protein or fermenting when it comes to carbs. So now you have all this gas building up, and then of course it can irritate your esophagus or actually leads to reflux, and it can be extremely painful at time. But even the gas formation, when it's trapped inside the stomach, that also can bring a lot of pain, discomfort, and honestly, is not very nice, especially when you're trying to fall asleep at night. So the other things that I really wanted to point out when it comes to signs of bad or unhealthy gut is brain fog. 95% of the people presenting in my clinic have brain fog that is related to poor gut health. So when they have IBS, almost 95% of them experience brain fog, issue with memories. They can't remember where they left their keys. They don't remember where they were yesterday, who is the name of the person they're talking to, all of these things are extremely important. The other things that I wanted to point out is immunity, because we know that when the gut is under constant assault and you have that low grade inflammation because the body is trying to say, well, we have something not quite right, something is there, but it should not be there. Now you have all this immune reaction that is impacting the gut, but by doing so, it also irritates the gut lining and the gut wall in itself becomes inflamed because too much is going on and is assaulted by every front. And now what's happening is that it can become more leaky when this is known also as increased intestinal permeability, which means that now these things that were creating problem inside the gut can actually enter the bloodstream and create problem just about anywhere. But the issue with that is that anything that is inflammatory, anything that is a pollutant or an allergen or even a molecule that is too big and that is not supposed to enter the bloodstream can literally create inflammation anywhere else in the body. But when it comes to bacteria, they are metabolites. Anything that is inflammatory may also enter the bloodstream, and where do they love to go? Anywhere it's warm and moist, and that is your joint. So when it comes to low-grade inflammation, many people experience joint pain, muscle aches, and sometimes it can even lead to rheumatoid arthritis in the very long term when you have that immune response that is over, meaning that the body has been fighting on every front and nothing has been done, and the response becomes stronger and stronger every time. And now you have some kind of condition that has developed. But the issue there is that some of these inflammatory cytokines or inflammatory markers can also enter the brain and inflame the brain. And by doing so, they also disrupt your neurotransmitter, and they may also damage your sleep. So by doing this kind of assault on every front, now you're struggling to sleep, you're struggling to remember little things. You can say that your fog is so dense that you don't even remember what you are doing 5 minutes ago. So that is very key because all of these things were linked to the gut. And the final point that I will want to share about unhealthy gut is that it also leads to nutrient deficiency. So now if we look at all the issues that I just talked about, we know that the immune system requires a lot of nutrients to just function properly, to be modulated, meaning that to be balanced so that it doesn't overreact or underreact. The problem is that if you do not assimilate the nutrients, then first of all, you can't have the energy because your body needs nutrient to produce the energy. This is why we say we need calories, because the calories is what we get from the energy that of the food that we eat. But also the brain needs a lot of fuels, and it also need to perform. Without performing properly, everything might go bad down the line. So that could be your sleep, that could be even your digestion, your stress response. And what's happening now is that probably you were anxious and now you are hyper anxious. Your stress level has come up at very high level, and now you may even feel like you're depressed a little bit and nothing is kind of making you happy. And that is also because the gut is one of the key factory for all those feel-good neurotransmitters. And even though those neurotransmitters that are produced in the gut, like GABA um, or even serotonin, they cannot enter the brain. But the thing is, because your gut is in constant discussion with the brain, every time the gut will say, oh, we're not happy down there, the brain will not go, oh, yes, let's have a party. The thing is, the brain will say, okay, something's going wrong. We need to know what is happening. And therefore, it's no point to say to the head, oh, everything is fine. Let's, enjoy ourselves when something is going wrong down there. So that's the issue. When you don't have that gut health like it should be, then your brain health is not like it should be as well. So that for me, that was really important to discuss. And now, well, like I said in the introduction, one of the key issue with IBS, as it stands, there was no. Oh yes, I will come to you. Thank you, Julie. I will come to this just in in a tiny moment. So, like I was saying, when it comes to IBS, there is no golden standard of diagnosis. It's all about the presenting symptoms. So it's only in 2006 that the Rome-free diagnosis criteria were accepted. So if we look back, it's not so long ago. And it was at least 3 days per month in the last 12 weeks of continuous or recurrent abdominal pain or discomfort with at least two of the following: relief with defecation, so the pain is relieved by having a bowel movement; two, altered stool frequency; and three, altered stool appearance. And the onset of symptoms should have occurred at least 6 months before diagnosis. So if we look back, 3 days in the last 12 weeks, and you need to have the symptoms for at least 6 months. Meaning that for all of these 6 months, is no point going to your doctor because your doctor will say, we don't know what you have. And they cannot diagnose IBS because the time frame is not long enough. So now you are probably in pain. You're probably having all the symptoms that you want to have resolved, but nothing can be done because you cannot be diagnosed properly. And the issue here is that even if the doctor say, oh, you might have IBS, they don't actually know which type of IBS you have because they will have to inquire about your symptoms. And usually people who say, oh, I have a bit of bloating, it's really disturbing, have a bit of pain in my intestine, but nothing major because one day is there, one day is not there. So they're just like, oh, okay, let's see when it passes. And then now you have to wait 6 months to say, well, actually, he hasn't passed and it's still there. What can I do? So, it's very, very important about this. And in 2016, the criteria was improved and refined and was now termed ROM for diagnostic. And it included a new class, which was unclassified IBS. So, meaning you have IBS, we don't know which one. Okay, you have IBS-U. Is that helpful? Maybe not for everyone as well. Because for me, and I really put it in a book, because for me, it's one of the key things to understand about modern medicine, is that if you are not in that particular box, there is no medicine for you. And therefore, if there is no medicine for that kind of symptoms, then you will probably be prescribed antidepressant. And what do you do with antidepressant? Well, take them and see how it goes. That's how it works. And for many people with IBS, that's how it's been going for many decades. And, for me, I really use the dictionary just to say what is IBS. And when it comes to the dictionary, it defines a syndrome as a group of symptoms which consistently occur together, or a condition characterized by a set of associated symptoms. Meaning that whatever you have, everything in you put the same basket and it's called a syndrome. Meaning that we don't know what's wrong with you, you have a syndrome. That's exactly what it means. So for many people who want to have resolution, then probably nothing is happening. And they usually suffer in silence, medicalized. Maybe sometimes they will even be given antibiotics and, of course, antidepressant. So for me, it was also very key to therefore understand what type of IBS exists. And it's not only one, and it's not only 3 or 4 or 5. So the first one is IBS-D, is predominantly diarrhea. So people who have frequent loose and watery stool, and often with a sense of urgency and poor control as well. So it's quite disturbing, and I understand why so many people with IBS-D will be having a lot of stress and anxiety. No, because it's easy to understand. But they also have all these symptoms like cramping, bloating, and when it comes to the toilet is that they may just have gone to the toilet and then within 2 minutes they need to go back. Or maybe they're still on the toilet and still needing to feel that they need to evacuate. So this is really, time consuming as well and distressing for many, many people, especially when you're at work or you're outside, socializing with friends. So, it's really something to really be mindful about when, you have IBS with predominant diarrhea. Then the next one is IBS with predominant constipation. So the people who actually go to the toilet infrequently, and then they really struggle to pass stool. So they will feel like even that they don't empty the bowel properly after going to the toilet, and they will feel like something is still going to happen, but nothing is happening. And sometimes they may even want like they need to push because it's just not coming out. So this is really like interesting because the other thing as well is that when things are not coming out, they accumulate. But they also accumulate with gas, and that can lead to bloating and distension. And like I said earlier, some people after food or even in the afternoon after having their lunch, they need to open their trousers because they just keep having their belly growing up and they can go from one size to four size. And that can be like, okay, now something is really happening. And often many people will need to find a solution because it cannot be well managed and usually it can lead to flatulence. And when you're at work or in a very confined space, it can be very disturbing and distressing for many people. And many people relies on these drugs to make sure that they kind of bypass the issue. So that again, that can lead to drugs addiction and very, very easily. The other type of IBS is IBS with mixed bowel habits. So again, because you have a syndrome, we don't know what you have. So let's say you have IBS, but one day you're constipated, one day you have diarrhea, but it doesn't seem to correspond to anything that is happening in your life or what you eat. So you have IBS-M. So this is when you alternate between the two, and there's no really clear causes to that. Sometimes people who have stress episodes may have diarrhea, for example, and some other may have constipation. So obviously, it doesn't work for everyone. That's why when you have an IBS and nobody can say what it is, what type it is, then they would say, okay, you have a BSM. But then, if it's not even a BSM because it's not alternating between the two, they will say, oh, well, you have IBS-U. And IBS-U is unclassified IBS, meaning that you don't meet any of the criteria of any of the other IBS type. And your doctor is just like, I'm sure you have IBS, but I don't know what it is. So you don't have anything specific. That's the issue. And there is another type of IBS, and that is post-infection IBS, and usually is occurring after gastroenteritis or anything that has to do with food issue, so food poisoning, for example. And we also know that, as you will find out in the book, that IBS, post-infectious IBS, is also linked to SIBO. And that's why many people who go down the route of treating SIBO find no release, and the people who go down the route to treat IBS don't find no release. It's because IBS is feeding SIBO and SIBO is feeding IBS. And therefore, it might be extremely complicated to find out what is the key issue here. And that's why for me, it was really important. And you will find it in the book as well, is that I wanted to have a very trusted laboratory who does stool testing, because when it comes to IBS and you find no release, for me, the key point is to understand what is happening at your gut level, what is happening inside. And that can only be assessed with a stool test. And for me, the stool test is an absolute stool for the stool, yes, because you can really pinpoint what may be the issue, especially which bacteria are creating a problem, what are they releasing that is another problem, and what can you do about it? Because yes, you have all these things, but you need to know what you can do to change that. So as you will find inside the book, everybody who does the tools test with the reference in a book will get a 10% discount. So when you, I think the a stool test nowadays can cost anywhere from 300 to 600 pounds. So when you have a nice 10% discount, I think is really wonderful. And I think I will put it out for everyone today because I think you deserve it. And for me, another thing that was really key to show is the actual uh, food that you are allowed to eat and the food that you are not allowed to eat in a way that is triggering your symptoms. So if you realize that some food are triggering some symptoms and you can literally write that down and say, okay, I should avoid these foods. And they also include all the um, FODMAP groups because everybody knows that the FODMAP as are one of the key issue for many people because of their fermentation processes, and they can really create a lot of gas when poorly digested. And also that can become from people who have some issue with digestion. So they don't secrete enough enzyme, for example, or they actually don't produce enzyme. That can be because of genetic predisposition, or they can also be due to um, nutrient deficiency because you don't have any of the cofactors to help the enzyme work or enough of the building block to actually produce them. And usually that is also proteins. So if your diet is very low on protein, it might be very difficult for your body to produce the digestive enzymes. So it's very key to really understand what could be the root cause of you not being able to digest FODMAPs. Um, and again, I really wanted to focus on every single factors that can impact your gut. And yes, the FODMAP are part of it, but they're only a minute amount of all the issue that can be causing problem in your gut. And I really concentrated a lot on all the research that I've done for the last 10 years on microplastic and nanoplastic. So when we know that 9 out of 10 personal care products contain microplastic in one form or another, then that's extremely worrying because this is an addition to all the people who drinks from plastic bottle, their juices, their water, but also their vinegar or also their tin tomatoes, everything that is acidic and is exposed to plastic. And it's also all these endocrine disruptors. So everything that create issue, but also in the gut, not only in your hormones. And then there's the heavy metals. And of course, the herbicides, the pesticides. So Roundup, of course, which is glyphosate, and dicamba, all of these things that is sprayed on the plants that we eat. So that's kind of very concerning. And of course, is the organic pollutants. So like DDT and all of this stuff that were banned many, many years ago. But because they are poorly distracted in nature, now they're everywhere and kind of accumulate everywhere, including inside our body. And that is also the same as all these fluoride compounds, like those that are lining all this non-stick lovely pan, which end up in our gut. And they, of course, create issues. So again, if you can see it here, you will have all the diagrams showing how they impact the gut and how they create problem. So for me, it was really important to have a few illustrations. I'm a very visual person, so I love to see illustrations so that I can understand a lot better. So that's why I really wanted to have those illustrations for you to really look at and really understand very quickly what can be the problem. So the other things that I wanted to share is the family history and predisposition tick list. There is about 10 to 20 pages of question relating to all your symptoms. Therefore, if your doctor don't know what is wrong with you, you have all the checklists to check what is happening inside of you and what you can do about it once you know what happened. And the good thing about this is that when you do that list and you answered all the questions and you feel like, oh yes, something is really happening and I think I have IBS. So now you can contact me and say, oh, I've done your checklist. I ticked all of this. Please help me. So what I can do is go through with you and then literally say, okay, this is what I think is happening. This is what we should do. And this is your plan. So now we have kind of took that kind of detour where everything is a lot quicker and you get answers a lot quicker as well. So when it comes to IBS for me as well, is that when you are filling up your medical questionnaire before seeing me, then you can include these checklist so that I know that you're coming to see me because you have IBS, what you want to do about it, and what you have discovered. So the other things that I wanted to share with you, and that is for me personally, because when it comes to any practitioners or any doctors, and I have written it in all of my books, is that what I wanted to say is that when you are with a practitioner, first you need to make sure that you check their credential, who they are, how long they've been practicing, where they are practicing. And that for me, when it will come down later, is key. Because if they are not registered, they can be anyone giving advice and you don't know who they are and why they will want to tell you what to do. Maybe some of them never had IBS and therefore they don't quite know what to do with you, which is absolutely fine. But the issue here is that when you trust a practitioner and you pay them, you want result. So that's why for me is very important. And this is extremely strange and funny at the same time because I literally finished the book. The book was finished. It was days to going to publication. And I said, stop, we need to add a new pages. And that was because I saw a client about a month ago now, a month and a half ago. And it made me question everything that I knew about everything. And I'm just going to read what I wrote in the book because then you can understand what I'm trying to say. So I was then a new client came to see me struggling with severe IBS symptom. Her biggest concern, however, was losing baby weight, even though her child was not yet 10 weeks old. She was reluctant to discuss her diet, and she was already working with a dietitian who had put her on a set weekly menu, providing ultra-restrictive recipe. So this lasted 2 to 3 weeks, and then she eventually shared the menu with me. And I have to say, I was genuinely shocked. The plan relied on only a handful of food. For protein, chicken, beans, turkey, and eggs. For vegetable, spinach, courgette, mushroom, peppers, and pumpkin. And for carbohydrate, quinoa, edamame pasta, and both white and brown pasta. She will have pasta for lunch and pasta for dinner. And the next day, she will have pizza for lunch, pizza for dinner. And then when she will have turkey, she will have turkey for lunch and turkey for dinner. And the next day, chicken for lunch and dinner. So that already rang a few alarm bells because I could not understand how you will want to put the same type of food on the same day when you could alternate and make the client feel like they have something different. So that was done. And then she started implementing omelette. The recipe was 1 whole egg and 4 egg white for one person. 10 grams of red pepper, so the size of a thumb, more or less. 1 slice of avocado. That was, at the end of the day, the whole recipe that was provided for one day equal to 15 eggs for one breastfeeding mother. The issue that was with a practitioner as well when it comes to IBS and practitioners, and especially when you see practitioners that are based in Harley Street, for example, there is really an issue there because usually when you go to Harley Street is people that you think you can trust. So that was very important message for me to share. Okay, perfect. Right. There was a question about a woman who thinks they have menopausal symptoms actually have gut issue. What do you think? Yes, thank you, Julie. I agree with that because, as you will find out in the book, many women, when they have their menses, tend to experience stronger symptoms. And when it comes to menopause, because of estrogen imbalances, experience even more symptoms. And also, it comes down to uh, the way they feel inside. They may become a bit more anxious because of the way menopause is being looked and seen in the world. So, what food might be a trigger? So that is quite complicated because I think in the book alone there is at least two chapters that are looking into what food can be a problem. And also, like I said, is a FODMAP, but it's not only the FODMAP. Um, Supplement to help, yes, absolutely. There is actually the last chapter is dedicated to all the supplements, the herbal products that can be helping anyone with IBS. And of course, these are general recommendation or suggestion, and they might not apply to everyone. So they're just given for information purposes and usually to discuss this with your practitioners and say, oh, I've seen this. Do you think that will work? And of course, the practitioner that works with you knows you best. And they will say, yes, that might work. In your case, maybe that might not work, but we can give it a try, or this is definitely not for you. So that's why for me, the book is really to inspire you to understand IBS and what to do about it and how to live a better life. And then if you're already working with a practitioner, then obviously you can say, okay, I read that book. What do you think that I should do? And usually that creates a great partnership with your practitioner because he understands that you are taking responsibility and you're taking charge of your own health. And therefore, by doing that, you always kind of work better for a better goal and something that is achievable. So once you read the book and you understand it, then it's very easy to discuss this with your practitioner. And then, of course, if you want to work with me and understand it better, and then work together according to that, then obviously you know that you can rely on my experience and my own life experience as well. And for the first time, actually, in the book, you will find the actual story of my life and why I had to struggle with IBS for so long without any relief. So for me, I'm very happy to have shared my personal existence and you know, for me, it was most important to say, oh, this is what I've done and it worked. So maybe it can work for you as well. Any more question? Food that might help. Food that might help, again, that can be very individualized because, like we said at the very beginning of this discussion, is that what works for somebody doesn't work for somebody, and what creates symptoms in one person does not create symptoms in other person. So the usual foods that seem to be easy to manage are those with low FODMAP, those who do not tend to kind of create that gas formation and the bloating and the distension and the discomfort. So, but that also ring another kind of alarm bell because if you do not eat anything that's fermentable, then it means that your diet is very low in fiber. And what does your body need, especially when it comes to gut health, is fiber. With that fiber, you do not feed your gut microbiota, and you can open the door to all those opportunistic and pathogenic bacteria that can take over, release all those pro-inflammatory markers, and create even worse symptoms, and in a way, preventing you from finding a resolution. So when it comes to diet, fiber should be kind of supervised, but not completely excluded. Maybe at the beginning, when you want to really to fine tune your gut, to really kind of soothe it down, remove the inflammation, yes. But after that, you really need to really refeed your gut microbiota and make sure that it's working for you and with you. So that's the end of the presentation. I just wanted to let you know that the book is available worldwide on Amazon. I'm just gonna put the link quickly about my previous books as well, so you can find them very, very quickly. And the good thing about this is that the um, overcoming irritable bowel syndrome is going to be discounted price at £17 until the new year. So if you really wanted to get your copy now, then I will really invite you to do it now before the price goes up. So here is the link to in the chat. I put the link to my book biography and everything on Amazon, so you can find all my previous books as well. So I'm just gonna, before we close in, I was just gonna read the table of contents so you know what the book is going to address. This is also going to be, I think you can view a few pages on Amazon as well. So you will find the table of content as well. So one of the very first thing that was important is why I wrote the book and why you should read the book. So those are the two first parts of the book that I think were very interesting and you will find very interesting as well. So then I go into define what is IBS, what are the common culprits, what are FODMAPs, what are the anti-nutrients that can create problem. Another chapter on gluten and why gluten is a very big problem with people with IBS. Other substances which you will discover as well, and that includes all these ultra processed food chemicals that were invented. And I will go as well to discuss glyphosate and why you are more prone to experiencing IBS symptoms. And this is where I will give you the medical history checklist. The next chapter is finding the cause. So really exploring where and how and why you have all those symptoms. Then, of course, my story and why doctor get it wrong and the actual research and clinical evidence. And in that chapter, I have included case studies as well for you to really see what has happened in real life with people who came to see me in person. And then, of course, there will be the protocols, the dietary recommendation, the supplementation, the stress management, and monitoring and adjustment. So what you need to do once you are on a plan and everything is working or not working. And then I'm giving you meal plans for whole week and gut-friendly recipes and many stress-reducing exercises. And then, of course, the last chapter is about the author, which is about me, of course, which is just to better understand me and why I'm here and why I've written this book. So I hope this session has been kind of instructive. Hopefully, it will make you want to have your own copy and give it at the present to any loved one or anyone that you know that is suffering in silence with IBS. So I really want to say thank you again. And if you have any question, please do email me or find me on LinkedIn. Right. So thank you so much for joining. And I wish you a very, very pleasant evening. And I hope you keeping warm. Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much.